This is the world's largest ore carrier. The 400,000 tons of iron ore it carries when fully loaded is enough to produce the steel for 6 birds' nest stadiums. This is currently the largest crude oil tanker in service in the world. The diesel fuel refined from the 300,000 tons of crude oil in its tanks would be enough to power the ship I'm standing on for a continuous voyage of 38 years. This is the world's largest container ship. If the 24,000 containers it carries were stacked one on top of the other, their total height would be comparable to the altitude of 7 Mount Everests. All 3 of these massive ships will eventually enter the same port, and this is no coincidence, because only this port is home to the nation's largest iron ore terminal, Asia's largest crude oil terminal, and the world's second largest single container terminal. This is the port with the largest cargo throughput in the world, the Ningbo port in Zhejiang province. It is the world's first and only superport with an annual cargo throughput exceeding 1 billion tons. By 2021, its cargo throughput reached 1.24 billion tons, leaving all competition far behind. Just how massive is that scale? It's equivalent to 6 times the total annual grain consumption of all residents in China. Because of this, almost every type of cargo ship in the world has docked here, making it the port with the highest number of large and mega-sized vessels entering and exiting in the world. So why did such a super port emerge here in Ningbo and Jishan, Zhejiang province? And faced with so many colossal ships, such an immense volume of cargo, and such a complex variety of goods, how does it manage to operate 24 hours a day, all year round? Now, let's follow these megaships to find out. A 400,000-ton giant vessel like this already represents the maximum tonnage for the world's current bulk carriers, even though there are 11 berths across 8 ports in the entire country that can accommodate such a behemoth. The Ningbo port alone has 3 of them. The reason this port can accommodate such enormous vessels is hidden beneath the water's surface. Take this 400,000-ton vessel, for example. Its full load draft exceeds 20 meters. Without sufficient water depth, not only could it never dock, it could never even enter the port. This is the essential condition for a super port, deep water berths, and deep water channels. And at Ningbo port, there are not only over 100 large and mega-sized deep water berths, but also deep water channels exceeding 22.5 meters in depth, allowing 300,000-ton ships to come and go freely. Even 400,000-ton vessels only need to wait for high tide to enter the port smoothly. So how are such vast deep water berths and channels constructed? Clearly, a mega project of this magnitude is difficult to build by human power alone. But fortunately, several million years ago, this land and sea bestowed upon this super port a unique gift, the Jushan Archipelago. When we look down from high above, and you can see the true face of China's largest archipelago. In fact, these islands were once rolling hills on the mainland, which were submerged after the sea level rose and fell many times, becoming nearly 1,400 islands scattered across the water. These islands not only provide shelter from the wind and waves, but they also form numerous deep, narrow straits between them. Here, the water currents are faster, preventing silt from the rivers from building up, ultimately creating a stable, deep water environment. As a result, wharves built along the shore began to spring up one after another, and following the islands. Layout: a total of 19 port areas of varying sizes were formed, collectively creating an unmoving, natural deepwater harbor sheltered from the wind. It is located in the northeastern part of Zhejiang province, at the confluence where 3 rivers, the Yangtze, the Qiantan, and the Yang, flow into the sea. It's a crucial hub backed by the Yangtze River Delta and facing the Pacific Ocean. But the port is far from the final destination in this global transport chain. That cargo of ore, crude oil, and containers will eventually leave this place, heading to where their true value can be realized. So, how is the next leg of this cargo relay completed? If you were a beer from a steel plant in Wuhan, and you wanted to ship from this or terminal 20,000 tons of iron ore. What method would you use, trucks or trains? Actually, the most cost-effective method is still by water, since the Ningbo port is located near the mouth of the Yangtze River. After the cargo is unloaded here, it can then be transferred to smaller cargo ships and enter the Yangtze directly, heading to the many cities along the river basin. This is known as river-sea combined transport. Each year, this method is used to handle the transfer of over 50% of the iron ore and over 90% of the oil products along the Yangtze River. Of course, besides the Yangtze, the inland waterways of the Qiantung and Yang rivers can also be used for this kind of water-to-water transfer. But even so, it's not as if every destination can be reached by ship. We still need new channels. For example, building railways right into the port. This is sea-rail combined transport. Typically, the trucks used at the port to transfer containers can only carry 2 standard containers at a time, but these trains being loaded now can directly take a full 100 standard containers at once, massively increasing transport efficiency. For example, this railway connects the Ningbo port with Jinhuihuo. Ever since, of the 1.2 million standard containers of goods exported annually from this, the world's largest small commodities market, 1 million of those standard containers make their way to the world from the port of Ningbo. Once loading is complete, these train cars will be pulled by a locomotive onto the tracks leading out of the port, and then on to destinations all across the country. Today, from the Sea-Rail intermodal train services departing from this port have reached as many as 22, covering a total of 62 cities. They can reach as far as Tibet and Xinjiang, with a total service volume that ranks among the top in the entire country. But that's not all. There are also some extremely specialized goods that must be transported in a very specific way. Right behind me is a crude oil tanker that has just entered the port. Right now, it's docked quietly at the pier, and all we can hear is the sound of the wind and the waves. Can you imagine? At this very moment, 58,000 tons of crude oil are surging into the port at a rate of 1,500 cubic meters per hour. And they aren't being transported by trucks, or by trains, or even by ships, but by these pipelines. One end of these pipelines connects to the dock, while the other end connects to these oil storage tanks, and soon, the vast majority of this crude oil will once again be sent through pipelines to Nanjing, Shanghai, and other cities. At this point, you realize that, apart from air transport, we have roads, railways, waterways, and pipelines. Almost every mode of transportation you can imagine converges right here in this one port. But to make these hardcore facilities truly effective and to achieve the world's largest cargo throughput, we need a collaboration that is efficient, and then even more efficient. A perfect collaboration. Let's return to that world's largest container ship from the beginning. Right now, it's waiting to enter the port. And from this moment on, that collaboration has already begun. These workers climbing the freighter by rope ladder are the harbor pilots of the Ningbo port. They are the people who know this port best. They know every harbor district, every shipping channel, every single berth, and only they, under the protective escort of the maritime authorities, can guide this supersized vessel through these busy waters and dock it at the correct berth. At the same time, working in coordination with the pilot's commands are these tugboats, dwarfed by the massive freighter. For this 400-meter-long giant, it takes at least 4 tugboats working together, pulling from different positions to precisely adjust the vessel's angle and speed, allowing this behemoth, weighing hundreds of thousands of tons, to approach the dock at just 3 centimeters per second to ensure a safe berthing. Next, 8 massive bridge cranes, standing by on the dock, will lower their spreaders from dozens of meters high, aiming precisely for the fist-sized holes on the four corners of a container, and then transfer them onto trucks already waiting in position. A highly skilled veteran crane operator can move a container using the most optimal height over the shortest distance and can even complete a full handling cycle in just 50 seconds, if they all operated at that speed. At this speed, it takes less than 2 days to unload 24,000 standard containers. However, the operator handling this lift isn't in the driver's cab, but in a control room 4 to 5 kilometers away from here. Today, staff only need video surveillance and remote operation to complete each and every lift, loading and unloading. And working in close coordination with the key cranes are hundreds of container trucks weaving back and forth. Some of them also operate without a driver, utilizing the 5G network that covers the port and the Beidou navigation system to achieve autonomous driving, parking with precision to transport the containers and loaded by the cranes, one truckload at a time, to the yard for temporary storage. Whenever a container needs to be retrieved, these gantry cranes moving through the yard will find that one specific container among countless others. It's then sent to different destinations via superhighways stretching in all directions. If efficiency is the lifeblood of a port, then the near-perfect coordination between people and machines, and even between the machines themselves, is what truly brings this super port to life. But even here, this collaboration is not yet over. When we look at the bigger picture in Zhejiang, we find that this super port, together with the city ports of Jiaxing, Wenzhou, and Taizhou, jointly form the busiest coastline of this major economic province. When we zoom out to all of China, this superport, along with all the seaports in the nation's 14 coastal provinces, collectively complete the world's largest maritime transport operation. And when we look at the entire world, it is these ports, large and small, connected by countless shipping routes, that help humanity carry out 90% of global trade in goods. That is why, as we watch the cargo ships leave the docks, sailing further and further away across the sea, what we feel isn't a sense of farewell, but a sense of connection. It crosses nations, continents, and oceans, connecting countless markets and countless factories in faraway places we cannot see. And behind them, the lives and daily routines of countless people, day after day, without ever stopping. This series is jointly produced by the Buick SUV family and the Institute for Planets.